Thank you, everybody, for coming to the Aaron Torres Podcast YouTube page. If you could do me one quick favor, see that little black subscribe button on the bottom of your screen? Go ahead, hit that little black subscribe button. Really does help this channel grow, my audience grow, and I appreciate it more than you know. Also, quick thank you to our presenting sponsor, Betfred Sportsbook and the Betfred Sportsbook app. Bet $50 on any game. Get up to $1,111 in free bets courtesy of the Betfred Sportsbook. Thank you again. Now, here's the video that you came here for. So Rich asked me, what do I believe is the biggest storyline at Peach Jam this year? And I think most people probably know, but this week, right now, this second, is Peach Jam. It is the #1 AAU basketball tournament in the country, essentially the national championship for all of the Nike AAU basketball teams. If you love college basketball, there's a very good chance that your coach is there. And to me, the #1 interesting narrative is this, and I say this as a guy who loves college basketball. We are, for the first time, starting to get just some faint whispers, just little tiny ones, that Cooper Flagg, maybe the best player in all of high school basketball, just completed his sophomore year, going to be a junior. We got some whispers that maybe, just maybe, he might be reclassifying and heading to play college basketball a year early. So first of all, a couple things. If you are not a high school basketball recruiting nut, there are basically two players that really, above all else, have separated themselves as the best players in high school basketball. One is Cameron Boozer, who is the son of Carlos Boozer. He is just an insane athlete, all that good stuff, whatever. The other one is a kid named Cooper Flagg, who has actually taken the mantle as the #1 high school player in America. 6'9" forward. He's actually originally from Maine, which as a New Englander myself, that's pretty cool. He's originally from Maine, plays at Montfort Academy. Those two actually played on Wednesday at Peach Jam. I think that was probably the biggest storyline. But on Thursday, let me say this. Cooper Flagg, as I said, 6'9" forward, originally from Maine, had one of the most iconic performances probably in AAU basketball history. This is what he did on Thursday afternoon. And he did it against, by the way, a good team from Texas named Pro Skills. They've produced a ton of Division I talent, some NBA guys. They have Division I guys on their roster. This is what Cooper Flagg did in this game. 38 points, 16 rebounds, 11 blocks, including the one to seal the win, and 6 assists. The game was broadcast on NBA TV, and let me just say this. I got a chance to watch. I was blown away by how good this kid is. Now, I've seen him before, but I ain't seen him play like this, okay? And as I was watching him, you know who he kind of reminds me of? Ironically, maybe, as we'll explain in a minute. Orlando Magic, Paolo Banchero. Paolo Banchero, of course, played at Duke, but if you remember Paolo at Duke, what was his ability? He basically, he kind of ran the offense at points, right? He'd catch the ball at the top of the key. He'd make plays for others. He'd take people off the dribble. He'd hit threes. I was at the game that Paolo Banchero scored 21 points in the first half against Gonzaga in Vegas, okay? That's kind of who Cooper Flagg reminded me of. He's 6'9", but he's running the offense. He's getting the rebound and going. But he runs the offense. He creates for others. He creates for himself. An incredibly impressive offensive player. 3-point range, can get to the rim, can finish with both hands at the rim, which for a 17-year-old might not sound like a big deal, but it kind of is. I was actually blown away by his speed and finishing ability in the open court. In other words, a guy that catches the ball at midcourt and just goes like a jet. Usually you think of the 6'1", 6'2" guard as the guy that can just get to the rim. That was this guy. And then what was equally impressive was his ability on the defensive end as well. Listen, I know I just said 11 blocks, but I give him credit, right? You're the star player. You're the best player maybe in high school basketball. And it'd be easy to kind of coast, or it'd be easy to play on one end, or it'd be easy to get your 38 points without impacting the other end. This guy competes on both ends, and every single time a shot went up, he was contesting it. Every single time there was a shot at the rim, he was contesting it. Oh, by the way, you watch the game, even when he wasn't at the rim, the other team was kind of looking out because they were kind of worried that he was kind of nearby. I was blown away by how good this kid is. And as I said, people were talking about him and Boozer as by far the top two players in high school basketball. Now, where it gets interesting is this. Both of those guys are high school members of the class of 2025, which means they just finished their sophomore years and they will only be juniors in high school next year, meaning they have 2 years of high school basketball left. Not sure if you're great at math, but that's what that means. Where it gets interesting, though, is if you look at the calendar and you look at where Cooper Flagg is born, when he was born, I should say, there is a very good possibility that he could reclassify if he wants to, and that he could play college basketball a year ahead of schedule. Let me explain. I've told you this, guys and girls, many times on this show, but remember, to be draft eligible for the NBA draft in whatever year it is, you have to be 2 years removed, or you have to be two things. You have to be 19 years old in the year of the draft, meaning we just had the 2023 NBA draft. Every person in that draft had to be at least 19 years old in the calendar year of 2023. They had to be born in 2004 or earlier. If you're 18 years old, even if you're the best player on the planet, you're not eligible for this draft. You also have to be removed from high school basketball for 1 year. So those are the two stipulations to be draft eligible: 19 years old in the year of the draft and 1 year removed from high school basketball. And so what we've often seen is that if a player is going to turn 19 in their senior year of high school, they will, what we call reclassify, move up a year to speed up the clock. They can play their freshman year of high school of college basketball at 19 years old. They're draft eligible. Anthony Edwards did it. Marvin Bagley did it. Karl Anthony Towns did it. On and on and on and on and on. And so I bring it up because where it gets interesting is that Cooper Flagg is born in the year 2006, which means that he will turn 19. I guess that would be, I'm not great at math, not this year, not next year, but in 2025. And so if he stays in his high school class, he wouldn't be eligible till the 2026 NBA draft, but instead he can move up and be part of the 2025 class. And so where it gets interesting is in the lead up to Peach Jam, there has been a lot of buzz that he is going to reclassify and essentially skip a year of high school to play college basketball a year ahead of schedule. That way, rather than being part of the 2026 NBA draft, he can be part of 2025, which means that he wouldn't play college basketball next year, but he would play it the following year in 2023, 2024. I hope that's not confusing, but basically, number one player in America could skip a year of high school, wouldn't play this coming season, but would play the following one. And so that's the buzz. That's the rumor coming out of Peach Jam. Where it gets interesting now is what's next. First of all, I don't think there is necessarily a timetable on this. We've seen guys start the reclassification process really early, sometimes even as a high school junior, but we've also seen guys take it up all the way till the finish line, right? Think about this year. Elliot Cadeau, remember that name? North Carolina was part of the class of 2024. He announced he was reclassifying this spring. So essentially skipped a year this spring, had worked up the credits, had the academics in line, ended up skipping it, but played up until this spring in high school basketball. Others like Anthony Edwards have done it before the school year starts. So you go on and on. This kid could announce after this tournament that he's reclassifying. He could announce in the fall. He could announce next spring and still be eligible to play the following year. Finally, where it gets especially interesting is that it appears as though there is already an overwhelming favorite for his services at the college level. It is the Duke Blue Devils. And it's very interesting because you talk to recruiting guys and girls, and I'm far from an expert, but you talk to recruiting guys and girls, and they will tell you that for a player of his high profile, there really isn't that much buzz in his recruitment. And it's because essentially everybody thinks he's going to end up at Duke. And from Duke's perspective, I think it kind of makes sense because remember, this past year, who did they get back? Kyle Filipowski, their leading scorer, their leading rebounder. He came back for his sophomore year. Would he come back for another year after this coming season? I don't know. Because of it, it would make sense if he leaves, there's going to be a spot at the 5, maybe a stretch 4 for Cooper Flagg. And I'll tell you this, man, I'm selfish, I'm biased, but I hope it happens. One, the class of 2024 is not good. He would immediately become the overwhelming best player in that high school class. It'd be good for college basketball. It'd be good for Duke. And from his perspective, I don't really know what there is to go back to play high school basketball for, right? You drop 38 points you drop whatever it was, 38, 18, and 11. Like, it's done. You don't need to keep playing high school basketball for another year and a half. So we'll see what happens. I don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves, but it looks very good that over the next couple weeks, the next couple months, Cooper Flagg, the #1 high school basketball player in America, could reclassify, could be a part of the high school class of 2024. Immediately the best player would then probably commit to Duke. And we could already start talking 2024, 2025 college basketball season here on the Aaron Torres pod, because I think he would make Duke an instant national title contender. They already have one player in that class committed. That's a top 10 player, Isaiah Evans, committed in that class.